For a lot of people, so viticulture is the science of wine with a V, not W, wine growing. So everything to do with the plant, the vegetative cycle, the physiological growth.
When you came back to India, okay, did any of your friends say that, "Arey, ye to daru banata hai"?
So this happens all the time. But yeah, sometimes you need to just manage, and there's a funny harmony in there, and we try to find that, and that's pretty much what we do as winemakers.
Harmony or that's chaos?
Yeah, it's chaos. Yeah, it's chaotic, but there are certain jobs in the cellar that you're doing, and if not done correctly, you can maybe oxidize the wine, you can dilute the wine, and that needs to come with time. Yeah, and everybody's different. Everybody's skill is different. Everybody understands equipment, machine differently, right? And they handle it differently. Pumps run differently. So yeah, I mean.
हमारे टाइम पे ऐसा सब नहीं होता था. हमारे टाइम पे डॉक्टर बनो, इंजीनियर बनो, बस और कुछ नहीं है.
I totally feel you though.
Welcome to Behind the Bottle. I'm Dushyant, and this show is all about winemakers, wineries, distilleries, distillers, master blenders, and all the people who are behind the bottle. So today we have with us Jaikrit. At the age that he is, he's already seen 21 harvests and is currently working with Soma wineries. I've just recently tasted few lovely wines with him, and he's already won a few awards over there. So welcome, Jaikrit.
Hey, Dushyant.
One thing straight up that I wanted to check with you, that somewhere I read that you mentioned that you've been kidnapped by wines, and so was it never a first choice?
No, it was. I always had a knack for chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I was always inclined to chemistry. I realized that when I started studying after 10th, and when you go into 11th, you have to choose a stream. The most obvious one for me was taking science, and then sort of realizing, okay, chemistry is something that I can deal. And then from there I was like, okay, let me just try and ponder over this and how I can make use of this. And then distillation and something to do with alcobev came around, and that's when I I was just gallivanting on the internet, and winemaking came about. And back in the day, I was this naive kid, not knowing anything other than engineering and something to do with studying law or becoming a doctor. That's when I approached my parents, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and that's how it all started. So I started just researching, and that's how I developed an interest in going outside and learning winemaking professionally.
तो हमारे टाइम पे ऐसा सब नहीं होता था. हमारे टाइम पे डॉक्टर बनो, इंजीनियर बनो, बस और कुछ नहीं है.
I totally feel you though.
So yeah, it's very interesting, and for parents to say that go do winemaking also is very bold, because it doesn't come easy. The kind of taboo subject that alcohol is in India, still is in India.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have supportive parents who allow you to do what you want to do. So tell me something about your journey. How did it all start? Where did you get your winemaking skills, and how has it been?
So yeah, I mean, so I went to New Zealand, like I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I studied a bachelor's in viticulture and enology. For a lot of people, so viticulture is the science of wine with a V, not W, wine growing. So everything to do with the plant, the vegetative cycle, the physiological growth of the wine, and how it starts from a simple plant, and then sort of yields a grape at the end of the harvest, wherever you are in the world. And enology, which is the science of winemaking, which is all your chemistry and art and what I do now for a living. So yeah, I went to New Zealand, studied winemaking for about 3 years, and then soon enough realized that it's very technical. It's very, because it's not a it's coming from an Indian subcontinent. It's not a part of your culture, right? You're not grown up with parents who invite you for a drink, right?
Yeah.
Who offer you stuff like, hey, let's drink, and we're not from the West, right? So coming from that school of thought and going to a country and learning winemaking and seeing everyone so prone to understanding that subject and learning it like a subject and not like it's not like misusing it in a way. And then after, I think it was after my first semester that I was on a field trip to Waipara, which is in North Canterbury. Some lovely Rieslings from there in New Zealand. That's when I realized that this is what I want to do.
Okay.
I want to make wine, because there was a winemaker who was, and we were a bunch of kids. We were maybe 25-word kids. We were 18. We're all 18 from different countries, and he was just explaining about the wine. Taking wine out of the barrel. Using the thief in a glass, swirling the glass, spitting it out. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? I mean, is this what people do after they study? Is this his job? And stuff like that. So I was very fascinated, and I said to myself that this is what I want to do. So I was really mesmerized. And then soon after, I realized that it would take a lot more than just, it takes a lot of hard work and persistence to reach there, to be able to talk about wines the way he's talking about wines, right? So, because of course, when you're talking about wines, you're expected to understand the subject from a technical lens, yes, but also from a very operational lens as well, right? So you have to cover everything, you can't just romanticize and just let the topic be. You also have to explain what you've done, how you've reached here, what is the wine's journey, how did you decide. There are 100 winemaking decisions, and then of course I went to Australia to again do vintages for a couple of years. While I was still studying, I was a traveling winemaker for about 3 to 4 years. Covered most of the important regions in the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. And then my last recent job was in US, in Oregon, where I spent about 3 years. Really honing the craft in the sense that, of course, I was doing vintages and learning different techniques from different winemakers and different fruit, different climate, different soil type. But there's something about spending an entire year in the winery. What happens before the harvest, what happens after, some of the decision making that maybe I was not a part of when I was doing vintages just for that particular season in that country, right? So just to understand that, and just to manage cost, just to manage manpower, just to manage electricity, water, these are have to be my best friends. I cannot mess with them. Just understanding and how to manage these 4 components, how to run the winery the entire year and maintaining that cost. I think that was something really crucial to understand. And then yes, of course, that gave me the confidence that I could maybe eventually become a senior winemaker, which is everyone's dream. And but I also understood that maybe I need to do more. I still feel sometimes I just know 10% winemaking. There's only so much, because the more you get into it, the deeper you get into it, the more trickier it gets. And then you're questioning yourself every day. You're questioning your wines. You're thinking, you taste your wines and you think you're a terrible winemaker. And then, and some days you're like, yeah, it's me, I've killed it, right? So yeah, winemaking is a very dramatic, fussy job. Yeah.
So did it ever reach a point that, no, yeah, this is much harder than I thought it is?
Yeah, no, I totally, yeah, there are still days, even after so much experience and so much, working with such established winemakers around the world, I still feel there are days where, I can just leave everything and sort of, do something simpler, something more predictable. But no, there's something about winemaking that sort of draws me back every now and then. And but yeah, no, that feeling comes every day.
So when I've been talking to you, I mean a few days earlier and even right now, like we say there's a lot of passion which goes behind what you are creating, right? It's ultimately your product, right? It's your ownership, and I think that's what creates that passion. It is, and that's what gives you the end result also. Because if you don't put in that kind of effort, then what you will get is mediocre results, right? So, just to go on the little, lighter side of things, when you came back to India, okay, did any of your friends say that, "Arey, ye to daru banata hai"?
So this happens all the time. And even when I started studying, a lot of the people would make fun. Not to offend me, but of course, that's just how boys are, right? And they'll make fun, and because it's still a very sensitive topic, making alcohol and producing alcohol. But then over time, they started understanding what this job was for me, what it meant for me. It was not just about wines, it was always there was something else, because waking up during harvest at 4 a.m. and working till working for 24 hours without sleeping during harvest, it cannot be just a job, and this is what you have to do, because Mother Nature doesn't stop for you in that time. You have to work with it instead of working against it. Which is what I've always managed to understand, because if you work against it, I don't know how the kind of wines you'll be making, but it won't be nice, and probably you'll lose your job.
So I've spent most of my time in information technology, and I've been on the technical side of things. You are on the technical side of things, right? So there is, when I look back in my early years, okay, 91, 92, 93, when I started coding actually, for my bread and butter, then there was no end time. Okay, there were times when I came in office to work at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I went back home at 4 o'clock in the morning. Those 4 hours were just to do the things which you cannot do in office, right? So. And that's what I keep telling every person who comes or every person who's joined me in my office also at my work, that at your age or at your level, the more amount of time that you add, okay, to the work that you're doing is adding to your experience.
Correct.
It's not the time that counts. It's the value that it is adding to your experience. I think that's exactly what it comes to.
I think totally, yes, because even when when winemakers at an early stage, they do 4 vintages, 3 vintages in a year, it's not easy. There's no stability. You don't know your next spot. Like I said, I would meet people in a vintage, and they would literally offer me to come to their country and be like, "Can you help us out?" And that's just how I would land my next job, because there was no plan. And even now for a lot of people, there is no plan. It's not a very high-paying job. Winemaking is tricky early in the early days, until you become an established winemaker, and people just buy wines because of your name. I mean, that is a whole another level of reputation. But I'm just saying, that is how the trajectory is generally. But yeah, late nights and the amount of time you put in, it all counts. It all makes it worth it when you're able to make a good product. You're able to express your own soil, your own grapes, their true identity in a glass. I think that's probably one of the happiest things for a winemaker.
I'm sure it is. So you've used the word, that staying all-nighters or doing all-nighters is a part of the job. So how does your day look like when you're doing a harvest and after a harvest?
I'll take you through like a peak harvest date. And I can talk both ends, when I was abroad and when I was here. I'll start with India. So generally in India, I normally wake up somewhere around 4, 5, and then I'll go to the vineyards. So most of the vineyards we have are contracted farming in India. only maybe 10% is estate owned. And that is also not true for a lot of the wineries. Mostly wineries, they are relying on outsourced fruit, right? So, and most of the vineyards are in the Sinnar area or Nifad area, probably 2 to 3 hours away from the actual Gangapur Gaon or the actual Nashik region where, the capital of India, as they call it, right? So you're traveling to different vineyards. So I'll probably just map out my vineyard sampling dates. I'll start off with, I'll probably club vineyards in the same area, or I'll probably sample vineyards by varietals, which I know that are, coming closer to the picking date. Because of course I'm tracking it for the last whatever days since the grape hits Verizon. And then I'm probably back in the winery by noon or maybe 1 o'clock. Sometimes I eat lunch, sometimes I don't, because I already have fermentations going on sometimes, or I need to receive fruit. And then, of course, I also have current blends going on for bottling, which I need to dispatch wine for. Of course, I'm checking in with the team. There's a whole lot of things that I'm doing because, when you're the winemaker, you're also looking at store, you're also looking at the purchase department. You're also looking at just general labor management. Winemaking in India is a more people management job, which is not easy because as a winemaker, I want to be left alone with my wines and just not be bothered, right? But generally, yes, I have about 30, 40 tanks at Soma. So I'll normally taste my wines every day.
Okay.
I'll probably taste my barrels every day just to see how much oak program I need to do or I don't need to do, or just decision making. And yeah, just the entire day goes in doing these things, and before I know it, it's already midnight, and I'll just probably take a call if I want to go back or if I don't want to go back. Sometimes I'm sleeping in the winery because there are things that I need to do at a particular time. Let's say a punch down or a pump over for my red ferment, and that cannot be skipped. And if there's somebody waiting with me, it's good for me. Support is always nice. If not, then I'll just do it myself. I've always worked in wineries that are hands-on, that have eventually become a very hands-on winemaker. There are wineries that you can become a commercial winemaker where you can sit in an office and just write work orders, but I didn't want that for myself. And then if you talk about abroad, generally same time, yes, I would wake up, go to my vineyards. There was a little organized because we had particular vineyards that we would take fruit from every year. So I knew that where I was going, it was not changing every year. So I knew my farmers, I had a good relationship with them. And then, just go to the vineyards, come back. Again, back in the day, I was an assistant winemaker, so I was reporting to the head winemaker. So we would taste my wines every day. We would make decisions on, if there was a pressing that needs to happen, or when to pick the fruit, when do we receive the fruit. Logistics is a big decision that we need to make during harvest, because sometimes there is no labor from the vineyard end, but we still need to pick because we feel it's ready, the fruit, in terms of the sugar levels, the acid content. But yeah, sometimes you need to just manage, and there's a funny harmony in there, and we try to find that, and that's pretty much what we do as winemakers.
Harmony, or that's chaos?
Yeah, it's chaos. Yeah, it's chaotic, but it's also romantic.
So behind all that, when we look at a winery as a layperson or from outside, right? It all looks very beautiful, because you're tasting beautiful wine and you're seeing those tanks and all. The way you describe it, I don't know whether I want to be in your shoes or not.
I have, dug out tanks, maybe even 2-3 tanks in a day in my early days. And those are big tanks, because my first job was at Oyster Bay, and they had 160,000 liter tanks.
Oh wow!
You could fit in about close to 120 tons in that one tank, and just dig out that tank, and it takes about 4 to 5 hours to take the skins out and you have grape skins at places that you don't want them to be. when you're getting home and you're cleaning yourself. And yeah, just don't expect to be in clean clothes ever if you're a winemaker. Just be prepared to be very dirty and just touch dirty things. You're handling, of course, grape skins. There is lees, which is the dead yeast that eventually dies, settles at the bottom of the tank. Just a really messy job, but also very fun because of course, then the tasting part comes, and then you get to hear good things about your wines, and then it all makes sense.
So you actually go about tasting every day? I mean, is that kind of monitoring required, or is there an automation to it which is possible?
So yes, it depends on each winery.
Okay.
When I was at Joel Gott in Oregon, me and my winemaker had an SOP of tasting wines every week, and then of course, the bigger the company, the more winemakers there are, the more creative heads behind one product. You can rely on other people. If you talk about Soma, where I'm the only one tasting the wines and taking decisions and making decisions on the go, I have to taste them every day because one, I'm not fully, I cannot fully trust the people that are actually working in the cellar, that what have they done. I can give one job and I can stand there as much as I want, but at the end of the day, there are certain times I cannot because I'm also doing other things, and that is when I have to be present and I have to taste my wines every day, just to make sure that they're all fine and they're all good to go. And because a lot of my wines are at different stages, right? So I have to treat wine differently at different stages. Tasting can be different for different wineries. If there was another person with me in my team, probably I could hand that over to them and we could do it together, or we could take turns. But yes, in a winery like Soma, I would be doing it every day, or maybe every second day. At a more commercial, at a more organized winery, I would do it probably once a week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. While you're doing this, okay, and has there ever been an instance where a batch has just gone bad?
No, it's not gone bad. But you do feel midway that something's up. Because, a lot of the times, and I keep telling this to younger winemakers and to people, who own these businesses, that a protocol is as good as the day of the harvest. The minute the fruit comes, it is your intuition, it is your experience as a winemaker, and it is your instinct that tells you what to do. Because the minute you see the fruit is talking to you. Now, this can sound really stupid and dumb to people, but to a winemaker, this makes sense. And if there are winemakers watching me, I'm telling you, they are not laughing right now. They are watching me and they are feeling my pain. Yeah. So, when you look at the fruit, you're making a decision on the basis of the fruit. So I can give you an example. Last year, we got a Cabernet. The plan was to make a fully ripe, very juicy, sort of a jammy Californian style, sort of blend a little bit of that Aussie touch to it. But I saw the fruit and the bunch. It was really ripe. It was really crunchy. There was a good amount of grapeseed tannins. So, of course, just to clear that out, there are two kinds of tannins. Mm-hmm. There's tannin in the skin.
Correct.
And there's tannin inside the seed.
Okay.
So each imparts different sort of a flavor mouthfeel. And then if you choose to do a certain fermentation with it, they both have different results to the wine, to the finished wine.
Interesting.
So I ate the seed, I had the juice, I chew on the skin, and that's when I realized that I need to change the protocol. So I take my paper and I toss it away, and then I just do what I feel that I need to do in that moment. And sometimes, I went ahead with it, midway I felt like maybe it's tasting a bit too green, a very sort of a flabby, sort of a watery texture to it. And then a bit of pyrazines, which sort of contributes to your greenness. But I was still confident that, we can make a good wine out of it. And I was hopeful. A lot of the times I take a decision and I'm just hopeful. as a winemaker. There's only so much you can control, because I still believe winemaking is happening in the vineyard, right? Nobody's talking about that in India, but it's happening in the vineyard. There's only 5 to 10% that I'm controlling as a winemaker. I think that perspective is really important.
Yeah, I think that that is something that we all know. Ultimately, that the fruit which is coming
is your product,
is going to give you the wine.
Exactly.
So when it is done well, you have a good wine.
I mean, I would love to make a wine where I don't even have to touch the grapes. A very minimal intervention wine where I can respect the fruit, and I can respect the decision of what the fruit wants, rather than what I want the fruit to be. In India, there's a mix of both, where we have to find the balance, because we don't have the best fruit, because the viticulture is a little forced. We're still doing a great job at producing some of the best Cabernets, the best Syrahs in some parts of Nashik. And then, of course, there's a little bit on the winemaking front that you have to get involved and sort of do certain techniques to extract certain components from that grape to show varietal characteristics, right? And then, of course, there are certain things you can do in the aging and the maturation part of it. Okay. The blending is a big protocol that needs to improve. Of course, there are certain things like bottle aging that nobody talks about. These things, winemakers are getting there, and I'm sure people have already done it and probably not been talking about it, but it needs to happen more often.
I think. I mean, this is art.
Yeah.
Okay. So it has to be talked about.
Yeah.
It has to be. People have to understand that
it's my emotion.
This is the the process that the wine is made from, there is hard work which is going inside it. So I keep telling people that when they see a cost on a bottle, right? Everybody talks about, that's 2,500. That's 3,000 rupees. Is it worth it or not worth it, or why is it so costly? But when you go through this kind of a process behind it, then that cost actually looks worth it. There is so much effort which is going in. It's true for all alcobev products. If I can say, when you look at whiskey making, right, there is effort which goes in. And there is decisions which are taken. So coming back, when we talk about you mentioned at quite a few points that decisions have to be taken. Right. So give me one example of what are the make or break decisions that you have to take while wine is being made.
Definitely, when the fruit comes in, first is what fruit are we working with? That's your biggest decision. Are we working with a more red soil or a black soil? Are we working with the soil that has a higher nutrition matrix or a lower nutrition matrix? Are we working with soils that have a higher water retention capacity or a lower water retention capacity? What are the microclimates around that vineyard? What are the macros? Because eventually that fruit is going to be defined by those factors, right?
Correct.
And then that fruit is going to decide how my winemaking is going to look like. Of course, there's a very little control on that because, like I said, it's very outsourced and contracted, and mostly the farmers are looking at, getting yield and not quality, because at the end of the day, they care about money, right?
Obviously.
Which is fair. I don't blame them. But yes, how do you, for example, if you get a Sauv Blanc, do you want to do a whole cluster press or a destem crush or a mix of both? Do you want to do a barrel fermentation? Do you want to make a Fumé Blanc style? Do you want to make a New Zealand style? Do you want to make a pyrazine-driven style? Do you want to make a reductive style? Do you want to make an oxidative style? I can go on, and there are so many decisions you can make just with one varietal. I do 9 varietals. For that, you need a whole season of podcasts. No,
I'm sure.
For the lack of the better word, it came out funny, but...
No, I am sure it is. Because there is so much of detailing.
There's so much, because each, generally a white wine fermentation would last you 21, 23 days. If it's really controlled and really healthy, maybe 24, 25. And each day is a battle. because you're always thinking, oh, will my ferment get sluggish? When I say sluggish, it's low in nutrition, so it can feel drained, it can feel stressed. You can start feeling reductiveness in the wine, in the juice, which is in the process of producing alcohol, and then finally stop fermenting because the yeast has died. The yeast was shouting for your help and you didn't show up in a very simple way. So each day is I'm tasting 4 times in a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, in the night. How the juice is performing, what the juice is telling me. Is it okay, fresh, aromatic, lively, bright, good acidity, nice minerality? So you have to be really hands-on. Yeah, it's like a baby.
I completely agree.
We're all humans. We have toddlers around. We cannot leave them alone.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. Call me the mom and dad. I'm both.
So one very interesting thing that I believe when you go through a creative process like this, when I cook food, I visualize that how my food will taste. I visualize that how my food will look on the plate. Okay, and then I get into the process of cooking. I do the cutting in a way, I do the processing in a way, I cook something separate, or cook them together. So do you do something similar? Visualize your end product that this is what I wanted on my tongue?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can give you an example. So this year I did a co-press.
Okay.
So for people who don't know what a co-press is, it's basically pressing 2 different varietals at the same time.
Okay.
So we did a co-press of 70% Sauv Blanc and 30% Viognier. The idea was to make a very high in mineral-driven wine. In India, either wines are very oxidative or very reductive. Nothing tastes. So I took inspiration from Croatian wines, where their wines almost taste like salt.
Okay.
Yeah, almost like seawater.
Okay.
And that is what I was wanting in my wine. And so the idea was to do a whole cluster press, keep very high acid. For winemakers, I was looking at 9 grams per liter tartaric acid or total acidity, as they say it. And if a winemaker is watching this, he would be like, okay, that's high.
Okay.
That's like that's nasty. Yeah. So the idea was to make a very high mineral-driven wine, very saline, sort of very neutral flavor profile. That's okay with me. Wanted to do a barrel fermentation with an old oak or neutral oak, as they say it, and wanted to reach that flavor profile where it has the fruit, it has the aroma, but it's just very mineral-driven, and age it for 3-4 months in oak and just bottle it straight away. So the idea was to make that, and then I thought about it. I took the right fruit at the right parameters, did it my way, and I was able to achieve, if not 100%, 80% of what I wanted. Of course, you can go here. It can never be perfect.
Yeah, perfection is a myth.
Is a myth. Yeah,
Perfection
it's a scam, basically.
And there's nothing called being perfect.
Yeah.
So difficult question to ask. But have you ever compromised due to cost on the style or on the process?
Yeah.
Just because there were limitations?
I think in India we don't have access to the best yeast, to the best nutrients. It's getting available because there are companies that are approaching different companies to distribute their products and make a stronger supply chain. But for a very long time, and even now, I don't have access to certain yeast that I need to use. So yes, there is a compromise even now. If I was to assume that I have the best fruit to work with, there are things that I can't get still. Be it yeast, be it certain products, be it certain additives that sort of not interferes with the varietal characteristic, but their main role is to sort of take away certain, let's say controlling Brettanomyces or certain fungal, diseases that may want to come in the juice, right? So there is a compromise, yes. Another compromise is on the knowledge base. You know, if you go abroad, there are winemakers, then there is a cellar supervisor, there are cellar hands who all know winemaking at different with different perspectives. Here, it's only the winemaker or maybe another person who knows a little bit about wine, and everybody else is just very basically knows nothing. So here, cellar hand is seen as a very labor-intensive job. It's like a daily wage job, and just you pick up a hose, you pick up boxes, you pick up you take out skins from a tank. It's solely seen like that. So there is a compromise on that, because there are certain jobs in the cellar that you're doing, and if not done correctly, you can maybe oxidize the wine, you can dilute the wine, and that needs to come with time. Yeah. And everybody's different. Everybody's skill is different. Everybody understands equipment, machine differently, right? And they handle it differently. Pumps run differently. So there's so much that goes on, and but the list can go on, and it's. But other than that, I don't think I've ever compromised on the style of the wine.
Okay.
So much, but yes, some things are not in my control. There's only so much that I can do. If given to me, I try to, respect the fruit, because I understand. I've come from that realm of, experiences, that how it's viewed outside, how humble people are, even after making wine for 40 years, I mean, just an example, my head winemaker would go inside the tank and, take the skins out, and, we would just be watching, and we would feel almost stupid that, we're half his age and we can't do it, So that whole lead by example thing is so true, and I think there's so much power in that if you can exercise that, I think you can go a long way.
I think it's all about owning your own product.
Oh yes, attitude matters a lot in this industry. If your attitude is not there, if your mentality is not there, then you can make wine, but you will never be able to own that wine.
Yeah.
There's a thin line between making a wine and calling it yours. It's so true.
I can completely understand that aspect.
Yeah.
Although compromises would be there, but as a winemaker, I would want to, or as a product maker, I would still want my product to be
best. Yeah, of course. I mean, the intention is always that. But in an industry like this, it's not. And I was actually talking to someone about this yesterday, that this is not the survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the nimble. So I've learned a word recently, nimble, which means to adapt, or to be able to adapt with whatever you have.
Yeah.
You can have 10 rupees and you have to make wine, you still deliver. Or you can have 100 rupees and you make wine and you can still deliver the same style of wine. So the survival of the nimble is so true in today's world for winemakers and producers, and because you don't know what's going to happen, geopolitically, globally, with the EU trade coming in.
Correct.
I mean, I don't even know if people are going to drink Indian wines, We can make like Grand Cru styles. I hope we do one day. We don't, but we can hope to make wines like that. But if there are wines available in the market for 3,000, 2,000, rupees, and that style is available now, no one's going to look at our wines. At least the top tier wines that we make, right? Because entry level wines are very entry level in India. It's mostly sweet and just very. There's not a lot of funk in it, right?
Okay.
You will not. These are not serious wines. You will not sit down and analyze these wines. You will just have it and probably have a good time. Okay, and then okay, next bottle. Yeah. So
yeah, but I mean, I feel a slightly different thing over here.
Yeah.
I feel that with winemakers like you and the others who are there, who are making really good wines, I believe you have won a couple of awards for your wine, right? So I think Indian wines need to be positioned better is what I feel.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not talking about the entry level wines. Like I said, the effort which goes in and the bottle that you get, right, is obviously going to be has to be the same.
Yeah.
It cannot be that you'll get a, with such big effort you'll get a bottle at 400 rupees.
Yeah.
So let's
not debate that.
debate that at all.
Yeah.
So when we produce good wines, right, I think there will soon be a time, this is my feeling, that there will soon be a time where there will be an Indian category of wines created.
Yeah.
Right? And that, even if the EU thing comes in, then gives you a particular advantage of being Indian.
Yeah.
And I think there should be some government policies which come in, which,
Correct.
make the availability and also the shelf thing, that Indian wines have to go on the shelf.
Yeah, true.
That is what I feel should be done. So there will be a good competition. When the European wines come in, okay, again I feel that it will bring in competition, which is healthy for the industry, because the industry will grow towards making their wines better.
As long as the attitude is good and it's viewed like what you've said, it is going to only tenfold the industry, and it has to happen that way. There's no other way for you to improve. There are no shortcuts in wine. And just to add to that, you can make the best wine, but you need to, at the end of the day, sell it, right? And for that, owners need to put in some money into marketing, especially small boutique wineries. They need to come up in front of the camera and start talking about their brand, start talking about their journey, start talking about what they've done. Because there are companies who are existing for the last 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, and not a lot of people know about them, which is sad.
I can agree with you.
Just think about it. I mean, a person took 15 years of his life to build a business from scratch, and there are people in metro cities where the same city is actually that person is selling that same wine in the same city, but there are people who don't know about the brand. They only get to know when they see them in expos or exhibitions or events, and they ask questions like, "Oh, did you just start this last year?" And it's actually embarrassing.
I know, yeah. So visibility of the smaller brands and the boutique wineries, or even for that matter, the small batch distilleries.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the small batch distilleries do well, but for the wineries, I know there is visibility is very poor.
Challenge. Yeah. It's not. I think also the acceptability is not there. Mm-hmm. The Indian market is growing for sure, but also very immature in terms of their own palate. A lot of the young generation, I mean, you're still young, but I would say Gen Z or Alpha even, people who can start drinking wine, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, the curiosity is still not there. They are moving to a healthy consumer choice, but are they moving particularly towards wine? I don't know. Maybe not.
Okay.
There are brands that are coming up with zero alcohol stuff, and it's good in everything, but I don't know. I don't really know how they're making it.
Yeah.
Because there are certain ways that you can only produce zero alcohol wines. There are certain technologies. If you don't use it, you'll never be able to capture the aroma. So I don't know how authentic it is, how true it is, what you're claiming on the label. So these things can happen a lot, and that it's sad that people are doing people are misleading another person.
Okay.
They're misleading through marketing, and I don't know. It's going to be an exciting time for wines, but hopefully people don't act shady.
Those are strong statements to make, man.
I mean, it is what it is, I'm trying to be polite, like I said. But these things need to be addressed. And if you don't talk about them, things, you can be in your space, and you can keep your, you can keep doing your work, but you need to come up and talk about these things, and
Yeah,
it needs to reach people.
Yeah, one of the thought process behind, creating this kind of an interaction
Yeah.
with various people who are working on the other side of things,
Yeah.
right? We, as consumers, we get to see the glam,
Yeah.
right? Ex-celebrity walking with a particular bottle and drinking it and saying that, oh wow, so
this is a good wine. Yeah.
what the consumer is seeing is the glam, right? But what is behind it is what we are trying to cover.
No, I think I think it's a great initiative, right? And it was also needed now. Yeah.
It is, and this would also possibly help in a way to give feedback.
Yeah.
I think there are lots of agencies who are already giving feedback. True. And there are associations, and there are wine associations or Feni associations, or other associations which are giving feedback. But I think one more mechanism of giving feedback is not bad.
Yeah.
Specifically if it is straight and to the point. I think I would love to do something like that.
No, I think it's also more relevant. I mean, gone are the days when, and podcast is a big thing, and people need to start understanding and start seeing relevant content if they wish to, right. If they want to know more, and but yeah, I think it's a bold move.
Thank you. Yeah. Going to making things a little bit more lighter.
Yeah.
Any one mentor or influencer whom you adore and you follow in what you do in your everyday?
Totally. So my winemaker from Joel Gott, his name is Richard, Mr. Richard. I've worked with him for 3 years. I still message him, asking questions about sulfites, and asking questions about bentonite, about different things that I struggle with sometimes. He's played a huge role in honing my winemaking skills. And there's another person, Sarah. She is a South African winemaker.
Okay.
I met her in New Zealand. At the time, she was an assistant winemaker. Now she owns a winery in Stellenbosch. These two people have been really important. And the best part is that I can reach out to them, with random questions, and they will hit to the point, and they won't even say hey. They'll just reply as if I'm asking ChatGPT. It's really fun, And then we actually greet after and first tackle with the problem. It's a funny relationship I have with these guys, and they're okay with it, and they're very in touch with what I'm doing and what my next steps are and all the wines that I'm making. These two people have been very important.
So very broad question now, okay? And you'll possibly take an hour to finish this, but a very broad question. International wines, imported wines versus Indian wines, okay? What are your views?
First of all, this question comes up a lot, even when we're talking to consumers on a daily. I don't think it's a fair comparison.
Okay.
For me, it all starts in the vineyard. I'm the winemaker who doesn't talk a lot about what I do in the cellar. I'm the kind of winemaker who talks a lot about rootstocks, clones, different breeds, and what I do in the vineyard, because the action happens there. So when you're talking about European or international wines versus Indian wines, it's not a apple to apple comparison. Grapes over there have been there for the last 2,000 years. We've just started planting grapes. We're still understanding what goes behind the viticulture. We're still understanding how to move to a less chemical, how to, can't be organic, but how to be more sustainable in that sense. So, because eventually my wine is a true reflection of the fruit I'm using. Because, I've worked in Oregon, I've worked with the Pinot Noir there, some of the best, after France, as they say it. And another new country that, not new, but another new region that has now come up is Central Otago in New Zealand. But the Pinot Noir in Oregon was the farming there is so effortless. They don't need water. It's so organic. It's so natural that, it feels like it's growing in the wild, and it's just such a clean fruit, ripe berries, some supple tannins, some nice red fruit, some nice gaminess to that fruit, right? That you can make a good $80 to $150 wines in like a year's time, right? In India, you cannot do stuff like that. Pinot Noir is a fussy grape, very dramatic, very hard to grow, and even harder to make in a climate like what we have right now. And it's getting hotter and hotter every year, and with global warming and just what's going on in the world. So, when you're talking about international wines versus Indian wines, I don't think it's a fair conversation. We're still putting wines on the table and we're still making decent wines, no doubt. But if we talk about varietal specific, we can never compete, Are we still making wines globally recognized? Can you taste my wines in a blind tasting and guess it's from India? Probably you will have a hard time, because I am using inspiration from the old world. I am doing contemporary blending. I am using my knowledge, my experience, and very hands-on approach, right? So a high chance that you may not be able to tell that this is a wine from India. If this was a blind tasting, we are winning awards at a decanter level, some of the prestigious awards in the wine fraternity that we have. That is where we are at, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is something that I really thought about because that comes to me when I cook my food. So what happens to you when somebody who is drinking your wine, okay, and is doing that very casually, okay? Do you get that feeling? Itna kaam kiya hai,
or I want to punch them. But no, I try to be polite. I get it. I get that it's new for them. I try to remember that young boy who went to New Zealand, didn't know how to hold a glass, didn't know how to swirl wine, and all of that fancy stuff that people do now, which is not so fancy, but okay. But yeah, no, I try to explain them what has gone behind that bottle or that glass, and try to encourage them not to get overwhelmed, not to just go beyond the jargons. You don't have to talk about the aroma. Nobody is asking you to describe the wine. Just try and hear me out and just approach the wine the way you wanted to approach. You don't want to swirl it, don't do it. You want to swirl it, up to you. I've become better at not losing my temper because I'm not a person. I'm the kind of person who doesn't have a lot of patience for somebody who's not willing to, like I said, nimble. But I've become better at being patient and trying to be patient at least to let them understand wine the way they like it. Because that's very important, especially in coming from an Indian consumer point of view. They need to start feeling like it's their own first. Correct. Before we start pushing it to them. If we start doing that, they will never understand the wine the way they want to understand the wine, which is going to defeat the entire purpose of bringing wine as a permanent fixture in our Indian culture, because it is never going to come and it was never part of our culture. It's not things that we grow up with, right? We grow up with things like milk and our grandmother would get us milk and some other stuff, right? So that is not a beverage we grow up with. We only learn it or get inculcated to it much later on when we are of that drinking age, or we have that kind of money because it's considered a luxurious product. When we can, or also we have that sort of that emotional intelligence that, okay, now I want to do things like wine tasting. I'm feeling more mature in life and I'm feeling more stable in life. I want to go out with my partner and learn wine.
Or aspirational in life.
Yeah, and rather than, spend on alcohol and just get drunk and, party all night, which is
Again,
there is an age for it. Yes, we all are. We've all lived that.
yeah, been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Yes. So yeah.
Flip it, and when your wine wins an award,
Yeah.
okay, what happens?
So I'll tell you what exactly happened last year when I saw that 4 of my wines won a decanter award. The first reaction was silence, and I cried.
Oh yeah.
And because you make these wines and you fine tune it and you keep tasting and then you're sending the best of the best to UK, right, where these awards happen, and a big panel of MWs and master sommeliers are tasting these wines, right, and they are some of the best palates in the world, and they're like the amount of MWs there are is very less, right? It's somewhere around 460, 470.
Correct.
It's a very small number. Some of them consider it an harder exam than IIT and some of our engineering exams, right? Because it is really tough.
True.
It's not that people don't know about it, so people think IIT is a big, really hard exam, or IIS is hard, but MW is a really hard exam. So the first reaction was to cry, and then just then sort of course gain some composure and sort of click on each wine and what was their feedback, because there's always room for improvement. Also, the more I've made wine, the more humble I've become, because there are days when my wine is tasting like the best, and then there are days when nothing is going right. My pH is off the roof, my acid looks so bad, I don't know what happens to my sulfur, just stuff like that, right? So wine is a funny way of letting you know your where you stand, and the more you mess with it, it's not going to be nice. So it's best that you try and work with it and not against it. And as a winemaker, I'd like to be in wine's team, not on the opposite side, right? So because there's a lot on the stake, right? And the more I am advancing in my career, the less chances I get to fix those improvements, right? Because there are expectations, right? The more you learn, the more you experience, the more senior you get, people think better of you. So you have to deliver. So yeah, it's a very interesting phase of life that I'm also in right now. I'm also seeing a lot in terms of growth and just a really exciting time to be in the wine industry.
Very good. I think we all go through that process of maturation.
Yeah.
First we hit the blocks, and as in when we continue hitting the blocks, one day you're just going up the level, one level, and you start seeing the success after success. And I mean, an award or people appreciating, I believe should make you more humble and feel that you're contributing something to the world which the world was waiting for. I think that's how I look at it. What future do you see for Indian students who want to pursue a career in winemaking?
No, I think it's super bright. There's a lot of guidance now. Of course, there are opportunities like this. These conversations can help them get an idea of whether they even want to do it or not, stuff like that. Back then, I chose winemaking and I was like, okay, maybe this is how it is, right? So I have to do it now. I have to be okay with it. But now I think there's guidance, there's information. There's a lot of people who are, going abroad and traveling and winemaking, of course, legally. So yeah, I mean, I think it's getting normalized, but I think they can start. I think the newer generation that I've been seeing, the gap where I think is that a lot of the Indian, organizations or schools, they're not imparting the right amount of knowledge. The programs designed in the schools are not up to mark. It's not as foundational as you'd want it to be. Because I know what I studied in New Zealand and versus what I ask third year students and master students what is fermentation and they're blank. So stuff like that. It's a little sad to see that that is the knowledge that's being imparted. So only and only if they would come to the winery and speak to the winemaker, train with the winemaker, which takes about it can take about 5-10 years. If that is a speed that they want to progress at, it's going to take a lot of time for them. And if they want to just stick in the Indian subcontinent, it's going to take even longer because there's once a year you get a chance to do a vintage. I would suggest people to go abroad. Of course, you can come back and make wine in India, but you should go to New Zealand. Of course, Europe is a big opportunity. There's North America, there's South America, South Africa, some really funky wines. Another country that makes a lot of Chenin Blanc, which is, an amazing Chenin Blanc. But yeah. And also I would urge people not to a lot of the kids these days, they'll do one harvest and put winemaker and assistant winemaker designations. And I find it really funny because it took me 10 years to achieve that. And I still feel that I only know 10%, 20% winemaking because I'm learning every day. More than the designation, it's what you know and what you feel the reality is.
Yeah.
Can you even handle that kind of what it takes to be a winemaker? Can you handle what goes in a harvest? Can you handle when you see the fruit, what do you have to do? Because when you actually see the fruit coming into the winery, everybody goes blank, right? You don't know what the next step is because there are 1,000 decisions you have to make. So can you handle that pressure of sort of taking that, one 20 kg fruit or whatever one crate has, and can you convert that into wine in the next 20 days? It's not easy. So
one last question.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think this is important for the Indian scenario.
Yeah.
India has limited grape growing
Yeah.
capabilities as of now, right? And that puts a lot of challenges for the wineries and the winemakers, right? So some of the wineries have found ways of doing fruit wines, right? A lot of the northern belt and even in Maharashtra, there are people who are doing fruit wines. So wines out of strawberry, wines out of pomegranates and
mango,
Alfonso and kiwis and name the fruit, and I think we are getting wines out of it. Apples, of course. So what do you think that, do you think fruit wines are the right way to go?
I mean, I don't think so. I would like to call myself a grape winemaker.
Okay.
And I think I would need to start using that because people will start confusing. I feel it's very gimmicky.
Okay.
I feel that's not true winemaking. I feel that's just another way of making some revenue for the producers, because they've realized that they've reached a point where the market cap is very small, the consumption is even declining, and their wines are not getting sold. But they still need to be afloat. So why not just make funky, fruit-friendly, fruity wines with pomegranate, mango? Because that's not true winemaking, right? You're taking fruit and just which is not meant for winemaking actually, and then just doing a lot of addition at the juice stage, at the winemaking stage, making a wine that is 6 to 8 months shelf life, over filtering it, over polishing it, super sweet, very easy, very safe wine. Of course, Indians have a sweet tooth. They will love it. They will be fascinated because they don't know the history of grape wines. If we start getting into Georgian wines and whatnot, then they will never have wines from mango and pomegranate. But not everyone has that school of thought and that experience and everything. So I also think it only spoils our reputation as producers of making serious wines.
Okay.
Because when you have a portfolio of like really serious like reserve wines, and then you have a mango wine next to it, the person thinks like it's even if I was a consumer and I knew nothing about wines, I'd be like, what is going on? What are you trying to achieve? Are you a fruit winemaker? Are you a winemaker? You have to define your style. It's so important. Wineries abroad, not necessarily makes all varietals. They may be making 3 different styles of Chardonnay from 3 different parcels of land, and that's okay. And they're sold out every year because they have that client base. They've found a market. So I don't know why Indian wineries have to experiment with all varietals. Everyone wants to do a Chardonnay, everyone wants to do a Sauv Blanc, a Cabernet, a Syrah, and then they want to blend wines and then make new wines. And okay, experimental lots is something, and then just exaggerating your portfolio just to get revenue and sales is, I feel it's a little, I don't know, almost gimmicky. You're not a serious producer, because anyone who knows how a serious producer thinks and makes a business model, they're very certain of the style and the reputation they want, right? Because eventually your wine is speaking for you when you're not there in the market.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I want people to have my wine and be like, okay, I'm taking a sip of him. I met this guy and I'm digesting almost like who he is and his personality in the glass. So I want to feel good about it, right? But then if he's making 10 wines, what am I really drinking? And 10 different varietals, right? And then I'm making, if I'm working with 10 varietals and I'm making 30 SKUs out of it, God knows what the person is having, really.
So I'm not sure about that, but I am a big, fan of variety. In the sense, I kind of agree to you on the point that, why have all the varietals on the shelf or in your portfolio? But when we talk about fruit wines, right, there are specialized fruit wine makers now, right? And it is a way of exploring the market and creating a larger market also, I believe.
Yeah.
So Jaikrit, I speak to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So when I speak to everybody, I see different points of view. And obviously I have a certain point of view over there. I think if the government supports and if there are the right kind of opportunities there, and there is a palate, there is a consumer base there, I don't see anything wrong with the fruit wine per se. Okay, I frankly don't see anything wrong. As far as it's not mixing with your portfolio, and then you're not confusing the person out.
Yeah,
right.
No, totally. I think I agree there. I'm okay with having fruit wines being made. I mean, I'm nobody to stop doing that anyway. But I'm, when you claim that a fruit wine is a wine, that's when I start having an issue, because traditionally wine is from grapes.
From grapes,
right?
Yeah, agreed.
I get like you can ferment literally anything and you can call it wine. But if producers start using something like a fermented beverage, I'll be okay with it. So I'll be less pissed off.
So I like that. I think that's the perfect statement to end with. That that wine is primarily grapes.
Grapes, yes.
So you call it whatever else you want to call it. Don't call it wine.
Just don't mix it with the true wine. Yeah. So that's all I would urge. But again, I'm nobody to control these things, and people are going to do what they're going to do, and it is what it is.
Jaikrit, it has been lovely talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
And it is I think this journey of talking to people, and specifically people who are making and producing the stuff, is very interesting and very intriguing. Okay, I can claim some knowledge on the business side of things. I can claim some knowledge on the taste side of things, but I definitely don't have knowledge on the side of making. And I have learned a lot today from you. I think. Well, I'm amazed. Thank you so much.
No, it was my pleasure. And of course, thank you for doing something like this. I think it's high time the industry needs this, and hopefully something good comes out of it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, cheers.
And keep in touch. We'll meet more.
Perfect. Thank you.